name is Nanaya Idu. Welcome. Welcome to the Much Ado About Nothing podcast, where I discuss what's getting people heated. The topics range from pop culture to UK politics. And a bit about me if you're new here. I'm a recent graduate living in East London. I write and perform poetry. I also enjoy writing blogs, and I'm super passionate about social justice and mental health. What I like to do here before I dive right into the topic of the week, the comment of the week, is give you a bit of a weekly recap. But since life has been lifing, and in terms of consistency, I haven't actually been on top of it. The recaps aren't exactly going to be actual weekly recaps. They're just going to be like recaps of whatever comes to mind. Okay, I hope that's okay. But yeah, it's February. Now, happy new month, everyone. In terms of the last month, it was job interviews, job interviews, job interviews. It was overall really lovely to meet new people and see the work being done in different organizations. It's really exciting to get to have a glimpse into like other worlds. But yeah, obviously it was overwhelming. It involved a lot of work, a lot of chatting, a lot of speaking, a lot of advocating for myself, gassing myself up, presenting myself as the best candidate. It's an exhausting, demanding thing to do, but it was rewarding, and I'm proud of what I did in terms of the quality of the preparation and how I showed up. Obviously, there were bits where I was like, oh, could have done much better. But in general, I did my best, and I think it was good enough. That's all that matters. And in terms of the next topic, I really want to mention the his discourse. So, if you're chronically online, you know what I mean. Get in, girly. I'm talking about basically Megan Thee Stallion. He's a rapper in the US. And dropped a single, I believe. I don't really know what singles and stuff refer to, but I'm guessing it's a single. And it was like a song where she kind of um I guess calls out people, and whether it's like hypocrisy or drama, or she just like makes references to people. She throws shade, and supposedly she threw shade at Nicki Minaj with one of her lines about Megan's Law, and basically just a tad, like a little bit of context. Nicki, who's also a rapper, is obviously uh, obviously. Yeah, Nikki is supposedly married to someone who is on the who's like a sexual offender or a predator. Basically, you know how there's like a list for those things. He's on the list, and it's like just common knowledge. And I think yeah, her brother specifically was also I don't know if he went to jail in the end, but he was like accused. I think he might have been like convicted and everything for I think his was like pedophilia, like even worse. Oh, trigger warning. I'm so sorry, trigger warning. It's a lot of drama, it's a lot of beef. It's actually like a lot of heavy stuff. You know how sometimes in music and like rap, there's like beef and you're like, it's all silly. Like it's like, yeah, we can take it seriously because it's silly. You get what I mean? Like the content of what people are like roasting each other about is so silly. But in this case, it's actually quite serious. So it's like, oh, like fair enough. Like people want to like have their allegiances, alliances, they want to support their fave or whatever. But I feel like the content of what's happening, it's a bit heavier. Like Nikki made fun of or made reference to Megan's mum who's passed away. It's all really dark and really serious and just not nice. Some people are like, that's just how rap beef goes. People hit below the belt. That's why it's beef. That's why you're not meant to be um being ethical or right or respectable about it. It's rap beef, and I don't know much, so I wouldn't know. But that's a little bit about the his discourse. If you came here for, well, I know you didn't, but I'm not gonna give you like a full rundown. That's not what we're gonna be doing today. So if you're interested in like finding out more, just Google, check YouTube, check TikTok, check Instagram. Like people are literally churning out um commentary videos and little hot takes all over the place online. So you will find you will find someone who's gonna give you a deep dive, whatever. If I find one that's good, I'm gonna share it on the Instagram for the pod, and yeah, you can go to town with it. But yeah, in the meantime, go be nosy. Go do a little Google, be nosy, and you're gonna find out what you want to find out about this beef, this drama, yada yada yada. But let's swiftly move on to why we're here today, because we have a lot to get through, okay? So, judging by the fact that you would have read what the episode name, you might have a bit of a clue about what we're going to be talking about. But let's begin with the comment of the week, obviously. So let's read the comment of the week. A lot of guys have serious issues with women doing anything noteworthy nowadays. This generation of males are very concerning. So, first of all, I don't remember the context. I don't remember the context of what this comment was referring to, but it's safe to say that a man was vocally hating on a woman's choices, actions, or accomplishments, hence the comment. So, do with that as you wish. Yeah, if you're not on the internet or in this corner of the internet, you might be wondering why one should care about a random man making unfounded or unprovoked disparaging comments about a specific woman. But unfortunately, this is not some isolated incident, no. In fact, there has been a concerning trend of men confidently making comments and sharing views which are fundamentally misogynistic. If you search up Alpha Podcast and I don't know, go through it, you're gonna know what I mean. If you click a few clips here and there, you're gonna figure out exactly what I'm referring to. And it's like interesting because a lot of it is framed as content or resources to empower women, no, to empower men. But it's like, who knew tips to empower men had to be so deeply misogynistic, toxic, and even violent? But yeah, alas, here we are. So a woman having Instagram is 100% cheating. Attention for women is like sex for men. These are examples of the comments you're going to hear being blasted on these podcasts, but they're not even trying to be funny, guys. They're not trying to be funny. But the comments I just shared specifically, they were made by one of the hosts of the Fresh and Fit podcast. If you Google it and you see the faces that pop up, one of the faces is going to be especially familiar because he's been plastered everywhere because of the ludicrous statements that fly out of his mouth. But yeah, these comments are ridiculous and you can't help but giggle. I can't help, like, when I saw the ones I just shared, I'm not gonna lie, I did laugh. I was like, he, this is so silly, ha ha ha. However, they conceal something that's very harmful about where we are as a society and how a large proportion of men and women think about what women should be and how they should be treated. Especially when you consider the fact that the primary consumers of this type of messaging and these ideas are actually children and young people. And yeah, it's easy to think as an adult that you're interacting with a bunch of adults when you're on the internet, whether it's like TikTok or Instagram, but a bunch of them are actually kids. Like, obviously, I began my social media journey as a child, but it's just hard for me to actually really think and embrace the fact that just like I'm on the internet, some 14-year-old is also on the internet. But these kids are the ones actually soaking up a bunch of these kind of posts, which we are like, it's harmful, it's ridiculous. Go touch sand, go touch grass, go talk to a woman. And I don't know. But unfortunately, kids are eating this up. And according to a recent Guardian article, basically it found that young men from Gen Z, many of whom revere social media influencer Andrew Tate, were more likely than baby boomers to believe that feminism has done more harm than good. But why would you think that as a child? Why? Because of the content, because of these podcasts, because of this type of messaging. But yeah, a report also found that algorithms used by social media platforms were rapidly amplifying extreme misogynistic content, which is spreading from teenagers' screens and into school playgrounds where it has become normalized. So yeah, these kids aren't just kikiing or like soaking this up in an unironic way in their homes. They're taking these ideas onto the playgrounds and further perpetuating them and using them in their interactions with the women in their lives, whether it's their female teachers or fellow girls their age. Like, this is bad and this is serious. But yeah, on one hand, we have the Alpha podcasts and their fans, and on the other hand, we have women who are equally being vocal about their criticisms and demands from men. And obviously, in both camps, we have the more extremist types who seem intent on interacting with the opposite gender like the enemy or the other team in some battle. But obviously, that's not the case for most people. And in these conversations, we do have the more normalish people open to dialogue and nuance, which I'm expecting listeners to be. But yeah, the main takeaway is that there's just generally a trend of men and women beefing each other and doing so viciously through podcast discussions and in the comment section on social media. The girlies are beefing, the boys are beefing, people are just mad, angry. Um, Yeah, but what I think is important when which someone on Reddit called at DAKRU mentions is the fact that many broad generalizations about that are made about the opposite gender are just that, generalizations. Because at the end of the day, we're actually just individuals with our own sets of beliefs, worldviews, expectations, etc. But of course, if there's one thing the internet's going to do is oversimplify, present a reductive representation of something, someone, always. Right on time. That's the one thing you can rely on the internet to do. Yeah, oversimplify people's experiences and just the big concepts in internet discourse in general. But yeah, um, this might still seem a bit abstract if you're not familiar with what I mean by alpha podcast. So, here are a few examples of the kinds of debates to expect in these so-called gender wars. Number one, what reduces the market value of women? And yeah, you heard that right. There's just this obsession of thinking of women and just like relationships and sexual interactions as a marketplace. So basically, these misogynistic podcasters believe that a main factor in like the value of a woman and like the dating scene, I guess, is her body count. And body count refers to the number of people she's been intimate with. And according to them, the higher, the less valuable you are. Unsurprising, the older you are, the less valuable you are. Unsurprising, the less attractive you are, the less valuable you are. Thanks, another one. But yeah, you get the idea. These aren't new ideas. They essentially form the bedrock of a lot of the more socially conservative ideas about women and their role and what their role should be in society. But what's quite interesting about um, the Alpha podcasters specifically is the fact that, um, first of all, a lot of these ideas are kind of tied to religion, but these men aren't religious. And these men, yeah, they seem to hate, I guess, promiscuity, yet they engage in promiscuous behavior themselves. And it's like they seem to be upholding more traditional ideas about what women and men should be, but they don't practice that in their actual lives. So it's like, why? Like, so much hypocrisy. And for what? Like, you're not that guy, bruh. You are not that guy. And I feel like it's the hypocrisy that angers women most. At least that's what upsets me most, because it's like, fair enough. Um, I understand people have religious beliefs which might guide the way they approach or think about sex, for example. Some people choose celibacy for religious or spiritual reasons. So they instinctively refrain from or look down, to be honest, on people who have a different approach to or perspective on sex and relationships. But that's their prerogative. It's like if you hold yourself to a specific standard and you expect the person you intend to be with to hold themselves to that standard, that makes sense. It's your business. What I don't like is when it spills over into something else. When it spills over into shaming other people, that's where I'm like, no, no. And in this case with these men, they're just shaming women for things that they do and have no issue doing themselves. Number two, the notorious who should pay on the first date. And the thing is, just like the kind of mini disclaimer I made, the thing is things like this can differ on an individual like basis. If you go on a date with someone and it's like they want to split the bill and you want to split the bill, fine. You want them to pay, or and they're actually happy to pay, fine. But they're making this big debate in like a universal cutthroat thing when it doesn't have to be that, first of all. But yeah, in like a more like in the most general way, because obviously with conversations like this, of course it has to be general, otherwise it's like we can't really have the conversation because there's going to be a caveat for everything. But yeah, basically women are saying men should be paying on the first date and the men are rejecting that, and they're like, why should we pay on the first date? You guys wanted equality, so how about you pay, kind of thing. And the women are like, we want to be treated like humans, but we also want to be courted. We also want to be swept off our feet, wooed, and the men are like, you can't have your cake and eat it, darling. And it's like, come on now, this is kind of silly. This is kind of silly, but it's the internet. Everyone's silly on the internet for some reason. So it's up to you to decide. That's actually my perspective. Decide. You decide. You decide. That's it. And the third main debate I would say is the woman's role in society and family, blah, blah, blah. Unsurprisingly, it's also quite socially conservative. They believe that women's role is to give birth to kids, raise kids, take care of their husband, take care of their kids, take care of their family. You get the drill. The woman's place in the kitchen. But obviously, a lot of women reject this because, first of all, some women don't want a husband. Some people don't want a partner. Some people don't want kids. Yes. But the Alpha podcast boys refuse to acknowledge this. They just say no. It's natural. It's an inherent part of being a woman to want to have kids. And they have this natural urge, yeah? It's an urge they have. But obviously, this is not true. It's reductive. And it fails to take into consideration that a woman's purpose is something that can and in actuality looks different for each individual. For some, being a mother is a goal and it's a rewarding thing. For others, it simply isn't. And that's okay. But here are like three of the key, I guess, like integral themes and like questions and debates that I feel like are at the center of my what I've seen about like the gender wars. But yeah, depending on what your feed looks like, there might be different aspects that are more glaring or more central to it. But here are those debates. But yeah, these debates had me thinking what could possibly be the reason or the trigger for such levels of vitriol against women online. And I'm mentioning specifically the vitriol that's directed against women because I know why the women are upset. I know why the girlies are mad. I know why the girlies are angry at men. And to like in a lot of cases I agree. I think yeah. So I'm going to be talking primarily about the vitriol against women. And also I feel like yes, we all know that there's this saying men ain't shit by women, but the reason they say that, it's like it's valid. Yes, you can be like don't paint all men with the same brush or whatever, but it's a valid criticism of their experience with male partners. Okay, okay. So I'm going to be talking about men hating women basically. Yeah, I'm going to be discussing and exploring why. So, obviously, I've kind of baited myself out. I'm a biased narrator. I'm untrustworthy. Well, I am trustworthy. I'm gonna give you receipts for everything I say, okay? Don't get that twisted. But so yeah, I'm basically gonna try to present somewhat of an objective examination of what's taking place, okay? So yeah, we're gonna be answering the question: why are the boys mad? And by mad, of course, I mean angry. And yeah, essentially, my theory is that there has been a shift in the power dynamics between men and women in heterosexual relationships. What do I mean by this? Number one, women are more financially independent. This is a no-brainer. Basically, gone are the days where women in the West primarily depended on their husbands or male relatives to financially provide for them. While some women have always worked, obviously, much like today, work which was regarded as feminine or predominantly carried out by women, that type of work is underpaid. That still happens till today, to be honest, but obviously to less serious degree, arguably, like historic, like thinking about the historical timeline and everything. So yeah, today women and men are treated as equal legal actors. Women can own and buy property, vote, open bank accounts, etc., without the authorization or oversight of a man, or more specifically, their husband. And in fact, in 2023 in the UK, the employment rate for men was 79.4% and 72.1% for women. So that's almost like basically equal for each other. And the Office for National Statistics data shows that since 2010, women in high skilled jobs has gone up 38.5%. And basically, all these stats are all well and good, but you might be like, actually, it's not that, like, it's not amazing to be a woman in society today. I agree, and I recognize that. And this is all me saying all this is not to say that equalities no longer exist between men and women. It's just to show that women have more leverage than they did before. And as a result of that, the financial incentive for marriage increasingly bears less weight. You could argue that that's not entirely true, because obviously finances continue to play a role in how people, including women, make decisions about their lifelong partners. But it's different, okay? It's less so something you have to do as a woman and something you perhaps choose to do, okay? I feel like it's more of a choice now. To the extent to which it is, obviously depends on your context, your individual circumstances, but I feel like it's definitely more of a choice. And moving on to the next key factor at play, women have more sexual and reproductive freedom. So, obviously, in society at the moment, we're observing a tide going in the opposite direction. Like, it honestly feels like slut shaming is at an all-time high, or maybe people are just more vocal about it, but that's what it feels like. So, like, but in terms of the tide changing, I think it's more notable in the conversation regarding reproductive rights and the right to have an abortion. But in comparison to the somewhat distant past, it's still like much better. Like contraception is widely available, and again, this varies from context to context. But yeah, I'm referring to the UK. Like pregnancy is no longer the life sentence it used to be for women, and arguably it's the biological feature that stifled women's ability to challenge notions of women's purpose being to reproduce and nurture children and care for their families. Because like back in the day, if you got pregnant, you got pregnant. It's like that's it. End of story. And if you just didn't want to have kids, period, the way things were set up, even if you didn't want them, you're gonna have them, unfortunately. But that's not the case anymore, thankfully. Yeah, so with the introduction and normalization of the use of contraceptive measures such as the pill, women were granted the opportunity to be freer in their own sexual habits. So they could have freedom to have sex as and when they wanted to. And this is a quote by Christine Northam, who's a counselor working for Relate, which is a relationship support charity. But interesting enough, in the same article that I got this information from, which was a Guardian article, it stated that the pill also freed men from the obligation gosh, I can't speak. It also freed men from the obligation to get married to women if they happen to get pregnant. Like the idea of, oh, you got her knocked up, or she's your wife now, kind of thing. We don't really see that anymore, do we? And that's thanks to measures such as the contraceptive pill. But yeah, as a result of the normalization and widespread of contraception, there has been a big shift towards a more tolerant or at least open and approach to like casual sex and hookup culture. But obviously, as I said, this is something that alpha male podcasters berate women for engaging in while they do so themselves. But you know that the hypocrisy is not new to you. We already brought it up, didn't we? Yes, we did. Yeah. But obviously, there's also other social factors at play. I guess what's worth mentioning, I guess, would be like online dating apps or more tolerance towards queerness and queer relationships. Like, it's not like it's less so like back in the day where it's like, oh, you don't like men, you actually like women, well, you have to marry a man either. Like, anyway, like it's not like that. The girlies are like, I'm gonna get myself my boo thang, who's not a man, and we're gonna be happy and they're just living their lives, and we love to see it. And the boo things who don't want to be in monogamous relationships are doing their thing, and they're happy, and we're loving it. But yeah, also obviously religion's on the decline. We know that. No new news here. But yeah, marriage is like one of those things where it's like people don't really want to acknowledge the religious roots, but like in terms of like marriage is a really religious thing for like in society. I feel like it's linked to religion a lot. Obviously, well not obviously, but I can't specifically say that super confidently because I haven't done research on that specifically, but that's my that's my 2 cents. But yeah, there has been a shift in power dynamics, but you might be thinking, okay, all this information is not exactly mind blowing, and it makes sense within the context. But why exactly are men bitter and beefing and hating women? Well. The answer to that can be found when we think of masculinity and what it means to be a man. But so by this, I'm basically referring to what boys are socialized to be as they grow up, and the identity is being shaped like, and they're expected to assume this specific identity by virtue of being men. And obviously, this differs from context to context. This is really interesting while I was doing research for this. But as mentioned or highlighted by the Nigerian scholar in 1997, the Nigerian scholar Oyeronke Oyewumi, what is considered masculine or feminine is rooted in the specific time period or predominant culture of a specific geographic region. So it's not fixed. When we say, oh, this is masculine or this is feminine, it's not fixed, it's not set in stone. It changes and it looks different for different places, different countries, different cultures. But yeah, when I'm talking, I'm going to be referring to the West specifically, but like in a really general sense. And obviously, thanks to imperialism and colonization, a lot of these beliefs, ideas, and behaviors are mirrored in former colonies. So if you're like, well, it's like that where I am, colonization, that's the foundation. That's why. Okay. That is why. Anyway, yeah. Back to what I was saying. A key thing to note is that um when we think of gender and gender in like Western society, there's a tendency to approach gender and a lot of other things within Western society from an approach them as binaries, okay? So obviously I think the biggest example, masculine and feminine. But within these binaries, there's also a hierarchy that is implied. So the masculine being coded as good and the feminine bad. Masculine better, feminine worse. And in a similar vein, in the world of work, we consider the intellectual to be superior and work which is more manual or physical to be inferior. We see an office job as being better and the job of a carer being worse. Although many would argue the latter is more challenging for various reasons. But if we think about monetarily the economic system, how we actually remunerate people's work, who is earning more? The person doing care, person cleaning, or the person in the office? It's the person in the office. And what does that say about how we think about it? If in monetary terms, in really practical, tangible terms, the money is not reflecting what we claim. But yeah, in a similar way as well, when we think of formal work, in comparison to domestic work, we put formal work as being better, higher, more real than domestic work carried out by people, including stay-at-home mums. And the reason this matters so much is because from the male perspective, women have encroached on what was once a primarily masculine domain, okay? So we all know toxic masculinity this, toxic masculinity that. But men have been taught that they are to be the decision makers, the providers, the sexually dominant ones. And it's like modern society is like, but the girlies are doing it too. And in some cases, the girlies are doing it better. How would that make you feel, especially when you think of power in a zero-sum way? Like you feel like in order for someone else to be more powerful, that means I'm less powerful myself, especially when you think and interact with the world in such a way. Because at the end of the day, for example, the breadwinner model, which is the idea of the man earning enough for the household, it's so rare, like these days, it's so rare. Not only are almost as many women employed as men, but women have to work. You can't be paying these energy bills. Like your man can't be paying it unless he's like making bank. And as we know, not every man can be making bank. So women have to work in many households, in most households actually. So expectations around domestic work obviously are gonna change. If both of you are working 9 to 5, and even in some cases, what if the woman's working 9 till 7? You can't expect her to come home and make you din din. You can't expect her to come and make you din din or do the laundry and you just sit around. Stuff has to change, stuff has to adapt, obviously. But yeah, men as well as women in the labor market are not seeing their incomes rise in line with inflation. So the girlies and the men, boys, they're struggling. It's hard out here. It's hard out here in these streets. And they stressed. And they don't have enough money. So you can't really channel that masculine energy if you're struggling. You can't be that provider, decision maker, dominant one if you're low-key begging for a raise and being denied it, can you? Exactly. And also, I feel like modern work is just less vocational. Again, the research for this I have not done, so I apologize. If it's actually so wrong, correct me. If there's anything I want you to know, if I'm saying things and their receipts are just not there, correct me. Go follow the pod at Much Ado About Nothing Pod. Head into the comment section and leave that paragraph and tell me why I'm wrong, okay? Leave it. But yeah, people and men do not really work with their hands as much as their predecessors did. But this is like literally obviously, as I said, from my personal perspective. And I feel like the idyllic image of the big strong man chopping up wood just isn't something that modern men do. And if they do, I can't see it. So correct me if I'm wrong, but no, you seeing that? I'm not seeing that. So they can't really flex in that regard. So what they can do, how they can exercise that power, that manliness, that masculinity, is if they earn a lot of money. But obviously that is a rarity. Making bank isn't the norm and it's not easy to do, is it? So yeah, but also in general, the girlies, the women are just doing incredible and big things in their respective fields. But unfortunately, studies actually back up the idea that when women earn more, their partners feel emasculated. And research by Joanna Serda in 2019 shows that in heterosexual couples, men are happier when both partners contribute financially, but they much prefer to be the main breadwinners. With stress levels high when they are sole breadwinners, however, they appear to be more relaxed when their wives or partners earn anything up to 40% of the household income. So men always want to be earning more. They want to, even though it might not entirely be true about the women depending on them, they want that bit of imbalance. They want to feel like big. They want to feel like they are needed. They are the provider in that dynamic. And in a lot of cases, that isn't really the case anymore. Like, I don't think so. But yeah, their distress levels increase sharply as their spouse's wages rise beyond that point, and they find it more stressful when they are entirely economically dependent on their partners. So, yeah, on a more bigger general level, the guys don't want sugar mummies, they want to be the sugar daddies. At least you would think so. However, the language about gold diggers online is crazy because man, they take every chance men can get to accuse a woman of being a gold digger, and that being in itself this grand, grotesque moral failing. Each opportunity they get to do that, they take it, and they take it with confidence, beating their chest, confidently typing away with their government names and their Instagram bios. And it's like, calm down, mister. Calm down. It's not your money. And you don't even have that much money to spend it on someone. Okay, sorry. Low blow. I'm sorry. I apologize. It's just sometimes the language and the approach is just so dehumanizing. It's like you can't just help but feel like I want to dish it back because what did women do so wrong? It's like I'm just living my life and I'm catching a stray bullet because some random man hates women, but this random man seems to be every other man I'm seeing in these comments, and it's like scary stuff. Scary. But yeah, in terms of masculinity, we know that the very makeup of masculinity means the response to all this change and discomfort and pain is one of aggression, violence, and an overall attempt of asserting dominance. Yeah, when in truth, it's just a man with a mic, with his mates, saying misogynistic stuff about women, or a man in his room typing up disgusting things confidently just so he can feel powerful, just so he can feel in control for once in his life when he don't feel in control. Yeah. But something which is even more interesting is the fact that younger men respond more aggressively when their manhood is threatened. So these were from the findings of a 2021 study carried out by Duke University and Stanaland, a PhD candidate in psychology and public policy, shared that it's clear that younger men are more sensitive to threats against their masculinity because of social pressures and how less secure they felt in their masculinity. But the thing is, that feeling of being disempowered is not the fault of women, despite the fact that these alpha podcasters and other people on the internet creating content around it are framing it like that's the case. It's not the fault of women. It's the fault of capitalism. Ding, 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 ding. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining my TED Talk. Literally, if the system was not one in which, in really material terms, people weren't disincentivized from a relationship, referring to specifically heterosexual relationships, when, like, if we lived in a society where complementarity, so like you do this and I do this, I support you, you support me, but we're both valuable, equally valuable, despite the differences in which our value manifests itself. If that was the approach, instead of like a relationship of dominance where someone has to be up and someone has to be down, and in order for one person to be up, the other has to be down, life would just be better. Life would just be better. And you might be like, what do I mean by this? But I mean, like, if we just recognize the value and importance of work and roles gendered masculine and feminine in equal ways, we wouldn't be here. But capitalism needs something to be worse so that the exploitation is like justified. Because at the core of capitalism is exploitation. Do you get what I mean? I don't know. Basically, there has to be a superior and inferior. Like, in regards to like the childcare thing, domestic work and childcare has to be not that important, so that is done for free by women. And in doing so, these breadwinners, these men, can work the long, grueling hours and show up in the way they need to in their um work roles because of the work that's being the invisible yet crucial integral labor being done by their wives. If their wives weren't there, they couldn't do those long, ridiculous hours, could they? They can't. They can't. But domestic work obviously has and is presented as less than, but it's like crucial to like the formal workforce and the formal world of work. But yeah, now we're in a situation where men and women are working these long hours to simply survive, not even to ball, not like not even to like go on those trips. Like people working long hours to simply survive, and they're being presented with solutions like HelloFresh. And the question is, when the question should be, why are we working so much that buying and cooking our food is an inconvenience? Why are we working so much that we're having to spend our earnings to hire people to clean our houses because we're just working that much? And another thing about these alpha podcast bros, yeah, is the fact that they never miss an opportunity to belittle belittle people or ridicule women who get engaged, who are involved in sex work, whether it's like through online content subscriptions like OnlyFans or like through porn. Like they always viciously attack these women and try and humiliate them, and it's so disgusting to watch. Like I really advise against it. When If you're so disgusted by it, your anger should be directed at the consumers who are actually just other men, most likely they themselves. And it's like, you might not agree with a woman's choices, but you don't have to. That's the thing. You actually don't have to. It's not your body. It's not your body. I know. I've thrown so much information at you. So much information, so many passionate, controversial, heavy, too real, hard hitting things, but it had to be said. It had to be said. The girlies and the men are beefing, but the culprit, the real culprit, is actually capitalism. Or something else, I don't know. This is just me just doing what I do best, critiquing, chatting. But yeah, I think this is a perspective that's worth considering, especially if you're someone who's really engaged in this and you're like sick and tired of it and you're like, are people just awful or horrible? And it's like, okay, some people are, but some people just don't have healthy ways of dealing with real emotional, I don't know, emotional financial challenges and things they have to, I guess, come to terms with within themselves, within their world, within their environment, within their experience as people, and they're just using the internet as like a way to channel that all out. But it's like, no, it's like sending dark energy into the world and just creating hostility when we should be uniting. It's creating division when we should be focusing on unifying against the responsible culprits, those up holding this system and subjecting the rest of us to this pain, because that's what is happening. People are hurting. People are hurting. And they're just misdiagnosing the reason for that hurt, and they're just blaming other people and being violent and aggressive and awful to other people through their screens, through words. But people are hurting. And I just pray that at some point soon there's some clarity and people can see clearly. Because it feels like people can't see clearly. I just hope and wish that people begin to see clearly and be honest with themselves, actually truly reflect and be honest with themselves, and abandon being so intent on getting more money that they, I guess, capitalize on this anger and this hurt and pain people are feeling. Because the idea of a bunch of kids being basically radicalized to hate women, and these kids are kids now, but they're going to become men soon. It's scary, not only for the generations after us, for us now. You know what I mean? Yeah. This has been a long episode, hasn't it? But I hope you enjoyed it. This one took a bit more time than I usually put into things. I hope you could tell. But if you could, and you actually appreciate it, please leave a positive rating, share on your stories, follow the pod at Much Ado About Nothing Pod on Instagram and TikTok, and interact and get engaged with the stuff I post. Because I'm trying my best. But yeah. I feel like by the time this comes out, it's gonna be Valentine's or past Valentine's Day. But either way, I'm sending you so much love, and I hope you all have a good and a happy Valentine's Day. If you're not booed up, it's not that deep. Like, we all know, like, go buy yourself the heart-shaped candies, go buy yourself the heart-shaped candles. I don't know. Not not me encouraging you guys to go spend money after berating or criticizing capitalism, but go buy them candles if it makes you happy. Go buy that pizza. Go watch that rom-com. Okay? Relationships are hard work anyway. Okay? They are hard work. So, yeah. I'm not gonna say you're not missing out. That makes it sound like, no. I mean, they're hard work, but they're sweet. Okay? Not trying to, you know what? Okay. Before I say goodbye, because I probably should, it's been a while, been going on for a while, but I do find it funny when people, in an attempt to be accessible or relatable or kind to people who don't relate to their experiences, berate things that are like positive. And it's like, if you're in a happy relationship and you try and start talking like your relationship isn't positive, or relationships in general aren't positive, it's like, you don't have to do that, you know? I don't like when people do that. If you're happy and your experience is happy, and that the person who's listening to you or you're speaking to doesn't have that experience, that's okay. That's not their experience. But rest in that happiness. Don't try and diminish it. Because as much as people are hurting, some people are also happy and having a good time, and we need more. Okay? We need more of that energy in the world in general. So share that happiness. Don't hide it. Don't lie. Don't diminish. Don't belittle. Don't try and make others comfortable. Be happy. Anyway, thank you for spending this week with me. I hope you enjoy the pod, and see you next week.